Good evening. We're following breaking news as we come on the air. A small plane crashing in northern Philadelphia. We will bring you the latest from this scene as soon as we get the reporter and some of those images that are coming in. This comes as investigators say they have the black box voice recorder from the helicopter involved in that deadly plane collision at Reagan National Airport. Those recorders expected to give us insight into what was happening inside the chopper just before the moments of the crash. Right now, barges on their way to help with salvage operations and pull the wreckage from two debris fields. New video first obtained by CNN showing a clearer picture of that crash. You see the helicopter there's terrible, coming behind the plane and the debris then falling into the water. This 3D map illustrating the flight paths of both aircraft and how they ended up on a collision course, but certainly not the why. And this evening, we're learning so much more about the lives lost in the devastating crash. You see them right here. A couple going to visit their daughter at college, Olympic hopefuls, avid hunters, and devoted flight attendants and pilots, among countless others. Today, the Army also identifying two of the soldiers involved in the crash, withholding the name of the third at the request of her family. This evening, Reagan National Airport coming under renewed scrutiny. DCA was designated to handle 15 million travelers annually, but that number has now climbed to 25 million. And just last year, Congress added more long-haul flights. Right now, the airport sees roughly 800 landings and takeoffs per day. We have so much to get to, including the close call at the same airport just a day before. NBC Aviation correspondent Tom Costello has the latest.
With thick fog hanging over the Potomac River, the black boxes from the regional jet and the Black Hawk helicopter are now at the NTSB lab in D.C. for a complete readout.
We have a high level of confidence that we will be able to get a full download in the very near future.
On the river, divers spent the day working to recover more victims' remains. The D.C. fire chief says as of this morning, 41 bodies have been recovered, 28 of them positively identified. With victims still in the water, a salvage team will soon work to raise the fuselage.
For us to recover the rest of the remains that we are going to need to get the fuselage out of the water.
On any given day, some 100 helicopters fly in and around Reagan Airport airspace, many of them military flights. Today, the FAA announced it is restricting helicopter traffic around the airport to all but police and medevac flights. New video, which first aired on CNN, offers a more clear view of the crash. Today, President Trump again said the chopper was flying too high.
It was above the 200 limit by double. Shouldn't have been there.
Investigative sources tell NBC News the chopper may have been flying at 350 to 400 feet when it crashed into the plane.
You have to be 200 feet and below. That's because landing traffic is coming literally over the top of you.
Retired Marine Colonel John Siligoy spent decades flying choppers in and around D.C. airspace and says the Black Hawk was clearly flying out of its zone.
Pass 25, get the CRJ in flight. Pass 25, pass line to CRJ.
And he says air traffic controllers should have been much more direct in their commands to the chopper pilot.
You have to be very specific and then directive in this case. He might have made a call like Pat 25, turn left 90 degrees immediately, or Pat 25, turn right 90 degrees. He didn't do that.
The day before the crash, another regional jet aborted its landing, also at Reagan National, after receiving a cockpit warning of helicopter traffic.
Brickyard 4514 is going around, turning ahead to 250, 3000.
Brickyard 4514, what was the reason for the go-around?
We had an RA with the helicopter traffic below us, Brickyard 4514.
On Wednesday, just a single controller was handling both helicopter and plane traffic after a supervisor allowed one controller to leave early. For years, the airport has struggled with understaffing in the tower. NTSB investigators will interview controllers about Wednesday's crash and air traffic volume at DCA.
Our job is to just come out with the probable cause, but then more importantly, make recommendations so that this type of tragedy never occurs again.
Tom Costello joins us tonight. Tom, I want to go back to those black boxes now at the NTSB lab for analysis. We heard the NTSB said they're starting to download the black boxes from the passenger jet. They just got the Black Hawk ones. When do you think we'll know more about those recordings?
Yeah, and incidentally, by the way, the cockpit voice recorder from the regional jet had water inside it, but the NTSB says their lab should be able to extract the data. They're drying that CVR out right now. As for getting a readout, they hope to have that by tomorrow, though they probably won't share that immediately anyway, at least not publicly.
And then, Tom, I know you have some new reporting about the American Airlines flight number 5342 that was involved in the crash.
Yeah, I was just double checking the number here in front of me, Tom, because American Airlines has decided that it is now going to retire that flight number, 5342, that was associated with this horrific accident here at Reagan National. That flight will no longer exist for American Airlines.
All right, Tom Costello for us. Tom, we thank you for that. We want to turn to that breaking news right now in our affiliate in Philadelphia as they cover that plane crash that's happened in the northern part of the city. Let's listen in.
Backed up traffic to be in that area, and you can see large plumes of smoke in that area. Let's go now to NBC 10 First Alert meteorologist Brittany Shipp, who is here to talk more about these weather conditions. Brittany.
That's right. The first thing we think about are the weather conditions and these scenarios. And of course, we already know it's been very cloudy throughout most of today. We have been dealing with wind speed, so we are definitely not seeing clear visibility. Here's a closer look at what we're tracking for you. We know that's happened Roosevelt Boulevard and Cottman Avenue. We have been dealing with low-hanging clouds throughout most of the day. Most of our cameras we want to show you throughout the center city skyline. You can see those low-hanging clouds. We have not even been able to see the tops of some of these buildings. So we know it's been very cloudy. We also know we've been dealing with rain most of the day. Our wind speeds are out of the south 5 to 12 miles per hour. If we wind out the picture, this is widespread rain affecting most of the area. And we actually still have anywhere between 4 to 5 hours left of this rain coming down. With small planes, especially, low clouds make it difficult to not only see but take off and also land. So I want to wind out the picture even more and just show you most of the day we have been dealing with cloudy conditions. Now I want to switch off the radar, which shows us all the rain, and just focus on our satellite, which shows how thick a lot of these clouds have been throughout the entire area. So again, not just over the Philadelphia region. We are not sure where this plane took off from, but you can see this cloud coverage stretches all the way back towards Pittsburgh and all the way as far north as New York and Hartford. So again, not great weather conditions. We are also showing you some of the sustained wind speeds we've been dealing with throughout today. And you can see over the Philadelphia area here, we're seeing sustained wind speeds around 13 miles per hour and wind gusts upwards of 20 miles per hour. So we'll continue to keep you posted here, but we know for sure we at least have rain in the forecast for another 4 to 5 hours, and rain has been coming down on and off throughout most of the day. We'll have more details, more information as we continue to track this breaking news situation coming up in just a bit.
Brittany, thank you.
Right now, we want to go to NBC 10's Aaron Baskerville, who is live on this scene of this crash in Northeast Philadelphia. Aaron, are you there, and what can you tell us?
Yeah, I'm here. An awful lot going on, obviously. We're kind of getting pushed back out of this parking lot. We were trying to get closer to the actual scene where this plane is crashed, of course, according to our sources. If you can look way down there, that is where the action is. That is where you see a lot of those flames that we've seen in videos as well. We've talked to several people as we've walked to this area talking about they heard an explosion. They felt the explosion. They felt a shake. We do have some cell phone videos that were passed to me that just shows this area engulfed in flames, but you can see the large presence here on ground of first responders, police, firefighters as well. If we take a tour, Mark, if you want to spin around just a second real quickly, I just want to show you just all the people that are out here too as well. Besides this huge presence, you can see everybody that is lined up throughout here. Near Cottman and Bustleton is where we are right now, but as we just pan the area, you can see we're at the Roosevelt Mall. There's just a whole bunch of people here, and of course there are staging areas being set up right now with the media. If I look down here as well, Mark, if we can come over here, you can still kind of see some of the flames and smoke, excuse me. That's because we believe there was some damage to at least one home over here down off of Cottman. So we know that a lot of the action where we're showing you right now, that seems to be the focal point, the center right here of where a lot of flames were as well. But of course, We still don't have official confirmation on a lot of things. We're hoping to get that in a little while. But according to our sources, a plane did go down, a small plane out here in this area. And as we were driving up the boulevard to get here, we saw obviously dozens and dozens of first responder vehicles, ambulances, things like that that were making the rush to get to this area. I'm in an area right now where I can't really go and walk up to somebody and talk to them, but I did do a quick interview that we did on tape that we'll get to you for a little bit later. But that person was basically telling me he was right over there at the scene, and he could have been caught in the middle of all of this, except for he went to go get something to eat. And he's saying, thankfully, that could have maybe spared him from injury and maybe kept.
Okay, we just lost our feed there from our local affiliate in Philadelphia. This is a breaking news situation. We are still trying to get information on that plane crash in the northern part of the city. I do want to get to Morgan Chesky, who's following this for us here at NBC News Now. Morgan, I know this just happened tonight, but what information do we have?
Yeah, Tom, a lot of reports coming in by the minute, but as it stands right now, we do have sources confirming to our NBC affiliate that a small plane did crash near Roosevelt Mall around 6 p.m. local time. We see the aftermath there from the live report, still smoldering, still smoke coming up from that scene. We do have some video just into the newsroom that I'd like to share at any point that gives us another vantage point of what took place earlier this evening. We know that reports to the Philadelphia Inquirer, the paper there, have witnesses saying that they witnessed the sky turn orange and then a fireball took place, followed by a loud explosion. Certainly a stunning scene that we are watching authorities establish a very wide perimeter around as they work to figure out what exactly happened. There are also reports of multiple victims here. But again, this is still an incredibly fluid time here, Tom. And all we know right now is that there is an ongoing incident happening near Roosevelt Mall in the northeast part of Philadelphia, with sources telling the NBC affiliate there that a small plane went down around 6 o'clock local time. Again, I think if we can roll that video that's just into the newsroom here, we'll get a better sense of what's taking place. But it is a stunning scene, Tom, coming just days after what happened in Washington, D.C. We do have some new sound from the scene. Let's take a listen.
As soon as the plane crashed, I was like 2 blocks away, like right here on this area. And then I started walking up. I seen the road crash. There was one car that's like bent up, and then the side of the house was on fire.
You said your heart was racing?
My heart was racing because if I didn't stop to get pizza, man, like I would have got hit. I would have got hit or burned or something like that. So.
And I saw your videos. Tell me, describe what you saw, the aftermath. What was the street? What was everything looking like?
The streets were just broken up, like a meteor or something would hit it or something. I'm not sure what type of plane it was, or airplane or helicopter. I'd heard it from the police and all that. So it just broke down like that. Fires were coming up. Police came. They fired it down, got people to remove, and then they started stripping up the whole area.
Yeah, you can hear witnesses just expressing the shock there, Tom. I do want to make one thing very clear, and that is initial reports had this explosion or crash happening at Roosevelt Mall. We do now know that this is happening near that location. Certainly, that's good news at this point in time. But again, still much more to learn there, with multiple victims being reported as a result of this small plane crash. Again, according to sources that have been in touch with our NBC affiliate there. For now, we'll send it back to you, though. Tom?
All right. We thank you for that, Morgan. It looks like this plane crashed just south of the Northeast Philadelphia airport, so it may have been trying to get there. Still unclear. A lot of information is coming in. Morgan, we appreciate you. We will go back to more coverage on this plane crash as we get more information and more video, as we are working very hard to get that information. We do also want to continue our coverage here of the horrific midair collision in Washington. Joining us now is Todd Yeary. He's a former air traffic control specialist who was in the tower in Chicago during 9/11. Todd, thanks so much for being here tonight. A lot is trying to be made, and a lot of sort of questions are being asked about what happened in the air traffic control tower, right? There was one controller doing 2 jobs, controlling both the plane and the helicopters under FCC safety guidelines. As you know, FAA, I'm sorry, we were doing another story. Under FAA guidelines, that's okay. But is it?
Well, first, I was at the Regional Air Traffic Control Center in Chicago, not the tower. But let's talk about the combining of sectors, which often happens in multiple facilities, is that depending on workload, resource needs, what's going on at that particular time, the consolidation of sectors is not necessarily in and of itself problematic. What it does do is I think it raises a number of questions that should be raised to get more information before that can be determined whether or not it influenced or actually impacted what happened the other night.
How difficult is it to be controlling the helicopters and the planes at a busy airport like BCA?
Short answer is it depends. How many planes are we talking about? How much do we have in terms of resource? Very often when we're talking about in and out at airports, the flow is typically departures go out, arrivals come in. There's kind of a rhythm to it. At this particular point in time, you see in some of the early views as the CRJ is on short final, you see a departure off of runway 1 that is climbing and turning left. And so whether or not that in and of itself was a heavy workload, you don't really know what else is going on at the time to really determine.
You've heard some of the recordings. I want to play the video that was first obtained by CNN. It's that horrific crash video, and I want to show it to you because I'd like to get your analysis of it. When you see this video right here, what do you think? It almost looks like the Black Hawk was almost flying into the airplane.
It does look like they are certainly on a course that's going to cause their flight past the intersect. What I don't know is what are the instructions that were given either to the RJ. We know it's on short final. It has a landing clearance, but what's going on with the Black Hawk? And so that's where the air traffic control takes.
Would it have been okay? I don't mean to cut you off, but would it have been okay if the Black Hawk was hundreds of feet below the jet, or is that still too close?
Depends on what's prescribed. There are procedures.
From what you saw in that video.
It depends on what's prescribed at the airport, right? So there are standard areas of separation. Then there are agreed upon areas of separation depending on what is happening in that particular area. It sounds like I've heard that the helicopter should have been no higher than 200 feet above ground level. It seems to have been a couple of hundred feet higher, just as you've got the regional jet starting to make its profile descent to the runway. And so that's one of the questions.
But even then, people might say that seems kind of close, but that's normal fare sometimes?
It absolutely is normal fare. When you think about by the time you have airplanes landing on the same runway, by the time one reaches the approach end, there may be less than a mile by the time one clears and the other one's ready to land. So it really comes down to what is actually happening at that airport at that time.
Todd Urich, great talking to you.
Thanks
Learned a lot. We appreciate it. We do want to go back to that breaking news out of Philadelphia. There's been a small plane crash in the northern part of the city, just south of the Northeast Philadelphia airport. Let's listen to our coverage there from our affiliate.
Some of those employees there are my friends. These are my family around this area, so I'm just so concerned about everybody's safety.
Have you been able to speak to them? Are they telling you that they're okay?
I haven't been able to speak to them. I've been texting. I'm just hoping and praying. So we're in a group chat with my managers and the staff, so hopefully they respond and we kind of get a better understanding of what's going on.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely,
I hope everybody is okay.
Absolutely.
As you can hear, a lot of people are talking about that they're trying to get a hold of their family members, whoever potentially even works, because there are stores, there are restaurants across the street. Reminding you guys, we are on the intersection of Roosevelt and Cottman, completely blocked off this area right here. Anybody that's even trying to get close to Roosevelt Boulevard, it's going to be pretty hectic, practically impossible to even get across through this area. But what I did see while we were walking to this intersection were a lot of people running and walking, and so much smoke that you could still smell it as I'm standing right here. Smoke that you can actually see right now that is coming up right there, a block or two away from Cottman and Roosevelt Boulevard. We are going to try to get closer to the other side of Roosevelt Boulevard, but for now, I just want to give you guys one last look on the amount of people that we're seeing that have just literally just started to walk outside of their homes, outside of their businesses, people that work along Cottman Boulevard. It's a very fluid fluid situation at the moment. But I can tell you that me personally, being here, I can feel the pressure, the tension of the people that are here and what has happened tonight. Jacqueline? Fred?
And Shayera, give us an idea of just how close you are to where we believe that plane went down. We saw you motion over to where that smoke was coming up behind the building, so just a block or two away. And of course, with the potential piece of the plane right there and closer.
Exactly, Jacqueline. Yes, I want to show you that one more time. A gentleman here told us that a piece of that also flew, and you said that it hit a friend of yours?
No, it hit a customer at the diner.
He says it hit a customer at the diner. We're going to try to see if we can get a look into that. But yes, we are I would say, less than half a mile away. We are definitely walking distance. It could be 2 or 3 blocks away from us.
Shayera Arias, live on the scene there in Northeast Philadelphia. If you're just tuning in, we got word around 6 o'clock that a plane went down in Northeast Philadelphia, right near the intersection of Roosevelt at Cottman. We can show you some of the video we have. We have multiple pieces of video, one from someone near a drive-through, and they instantly saw that plane go down and the smoke and flames coming up from that scene. And then we have other video as well further away, and you can almost see the person getting out of this white truck, seeing what's happening and going over to shoot some video.
Yeah, and you can and you know just by the impact and the description that Shayera just described, the debris field of this plane crash must be wide for a piece of debris to come that far and hit one of the customers inside of that diner. And they are telling folks, you know, one of the challenges in investigating this right now is getting folks inside, getting them evacuated from that area. I imagine that as they work this investigation this evening, that debris field and the area that they have cordoned off might widen because of the smoke and also the possible debris that they might try to collect for this investigation. But smoke, backed up traffic, and high tensions in Northeast Philadelphia this evening after that MedJet crash around 6 o'clock. I want to show you now some door cam video into our newsroom from a neighborhood, and there you see it right there. So disturbing because now we know what that is, and the plume of smoke and fire.
This is the first time we are seeing the video of the plane actually going down right there. Wow. Going down in the ground, and then the flames and the smoke emitting.
And you see the timestamp on that video, too, showing you when that happened.
That impact massive. Let's go to Tracy Davidson in our newsroom right now. Of course, we still don't know how many people were on board. We know 2 pilots. We don't know if anyone was being transported on that medical jet. Tracy.
Well, we're told from sources 2 people on board. 2 people, and we know that there were 2 pilots on board. That's what we know. Here's what we know about the plane. It is a MedJet. That's the name of the company, but it's actually a medical jet. It's a transport to move patients from hospital to hospital. It came from a private airport in Miami, headed to Northeast Airport, which, by the way, is about 4 miles north of this crash scene. And it had just taken off around 6 o'clock. It was headed to Springfield, Missouri. Again, it's MedJet, which is a global air medical transport. And it was headed to Missouri. We have heard, and we're trying to get this on TV for you, from air traffic control radio, and you hear them approve the plane to take off from Northeast Airport. And then they did take off, and then you hear the air traffic controllers try to get a hold of them, and there's no response. We're working to get that audio for you, but we'll keep you updated. But right now, 2 pilots on the plane, and all of our sources are saying just 2 people on board the plane. We'll work to get more information. As you know, we have to run down exactly what we know and what we don't know. But the Northeast Airport is about 4 miles, and they did take off. So it's about 4 miles north of where that crash site is.
Okay, Tracy, thank you for that update. And yeah, you can just imagine if they gave the approval to send the airplane off and then moments later losing contact, that communication and possibly visibility may have been a factor this evening. Once again, there you see the impact of that crash from that vantage point in Northeast Philadelphia. You see pedestrians there, you see traffic there at that intersection. This happening at Cottman and Roosevelt in Northeast Philadelphia just after 6 o'clock this evening. We have several crews on the scene. You heard from our Shira Arias, who was showing us a piece of debris that had presumably looked like something that could have come from the plane just feet from where she was standing.
We've never seen anything like that,
Yeah.
but we know that this area in Northeast Philadelphia is heavily trafficked. It is congested. And at 6 p.m. on a Friday night, and also when we saw that plane go down, if we could pull that video up again, it is shocking to see that plane go down, and we just got this video in moments ago.
From the doorbell camera, and it's timestamped too. When you look at it, you'll notice the timestamp sort of in the bottom middle of the video that shows you around, I don't know if the clock is right on it, but it says somewhere around 6:07.
And we could see that that plane went down right behind what looked like a residential area and a row of homes. Well, we know there were 2 people on board that med jet, that medical plane. We're hoping that no one on the ground was injured when that plane went down, but it's frightening when you think of just how many people live and work in this area and would have been in that vicinity at 6 o'clock on a Friday night.
And this is a new piece of video that we're seeing here. You can see what looks like debris in the area, probably within closer proximity, things still on fire right there, and the fire department right there responding to it. We know that in addition to a firefighting staging area, we also have PGW, PECO, and the water department on the scene as well.
And we saw how many people were gathered on the corner. Of course, a lot of people responding, hearing about this plane crash, and also hearing it. We heard there was explosion. People felt the ground trembling, and people going to that area, possibly knowing people who live in that vicinity or work there. We heard from the gentleman who Shira interviewed. He was wondering about some people he knew, family members in that area. So just frightening for so many people coming off of this plane crash. And this is that video again. The speed at which that plane went down and the angle of the plane and that sharp descent, and instantly smoke and flames coming up from where it crashed.
Yeah, and people, as you just said, reporting that they could feel the ground beneath their feet rumble. Just unnerving for something like that to happen in the city on a Friday night when you're inside your home, and the fire and plume of smoke from the impact of that crash. This is from obviously a different scene, but seeing the same thing. You can see the fire just beyond the trees and the buildings there, and traffic coming to almost a stop as people are realizing what's happening there.
And while we saw so many people gathered, of course, authorities were putting information out, advising people not to be in that area. And if you're in your car, to keep the windows closed. If you're in a home in that area, to keep your windows closed because of the fumes and the smoke that can come from that. But regardless, people were gathering, curious onlookers, hoping that none of their family, friends, or loved ones are in that area or were impacted by this plane crash.
And as you just heard our Tracy Davidson tell us, this plane crash happening around 6:05, she first reported, but she said that there were 2 people and 2 pilots on that plane, a med jet transport plane. And that plane like that is designed to move patients from hospital to hospital. That plane headed from Northeast Airport to Springfield, Missouri.
We have Deanna Durante on the phone right now. Deanna, what can you tell us?
Right now, of course, police and fire sources are scrambling to try and get people out of the area to try and control traffic in the area. Obviously, if you're trying to get near that section of the city or Lower Bucks County, find a different way around it because traffic control has been very difficult. I can tell you from police sources that there were a number of people in the Roosevelt Mall area that they were trying to evacuate. And shortly after this plane crash happened, after 6 o'clock, the 911 center in Philadelphia was flooded with phone calls. Some of the descriptions that people were calling in were loud explosions, that a house exploded. In one case, it was unclear if anyone was inside the home, but another call that came in saying several people were hurt. What I'm hearing from a variety of different sources is this was a medical plane that had staff on board, including the pilots and some medical staff on board as well. that they are trying to confirm exactly how many people were on board the plane at the time that this happened. Sources tell me the plane was cleared for takeoff, and then the crash happened shortly after that. I'm looking right now at the video that we're showing on NBC10.com here, and you can see that there is a number of traffic issues in the area. So again, police trying to get every available officer and personnel from the fire department and from the city there to try and control traffic and move people around the area. I can tell you that a lot of issues they're having were people outside, crowd control, so they really need to be able to get in there and get to the people who are injured and be able to move people out of there, as well as try and get the fires under control. So they're trying to eliminate how many crowds come in and look around and see that area. Obviously, if you're familiar with that area of Northeast Philadelphia, it's a very busy area. It's not just a residential area, but it's a very busy commerce area with the Roosevelt Mall, a lot of shopping, a lot of people going home at this point. So they're trying to get this situation under control with a number of difficult factors here. Many are calling for police to get near the Roosevelt Mall area to try and help people evacuate and try and help get people out of and get in there and figure out what happened.
That, of course, most important is that medical crews are able to get to that area. Deanna, you're saying that because that area is so congested, some medical personnel and crews are unable to access areas where they need to be?
Well, medical crews are getting in there, but they are having difficulty with some crowd control. So they're of course asking people, to stay away from the area so that first responders can get in there. Obviously, with a scene this large, you've got homes involved, you've got business involved, you've got the streets involved, just the debris that we're seeing here on the street. If you're in that area, it's best at this point to stay inside and to let those first responders get in there and get to whoever they need, because at this point we don't know how many people are injured, how many people need help. So you don't want to impede their efforts of getting in there and trying to help people.
Yeah. And this is very close to Roosevelt Mall, and they were under the process of trying to get to that location and get people evacuated from that mall.
From what I'm hearing from law enforcement sources, yes, there were a number of people in the mall area. Now, the mall has changed since I was a kid. It's more of a strip mall area, but there's still a Macy's and still a number of stores. People were inside. They heard the explosions. They heard, they felt the explosions. A lot of people not knowing what's happening. So early on, about a half hour ago, they were calling for available officers to help try and guide people out of the mall.
Deanna Durante near that scene with the latest. Thank you for that, Deanna, and that perspective. Right now, let's go back to Tracy Davidson in our newsroom getting more information for us on this. Tracy.
Got an update from the FAA, and here's the statement, and it says this information is preliminary, subject to change, as it always is in the early stages of something like this. A Learjet 55 crashed around 6:30 local time Friday after departing from Northeast Philadelphia Airport. There were 2 people on board. As we've been saying, 2 people on board. We believe 2 pilots on board. The plane was, as we've been saying, en route to Springfield, Missouri. The FAA and NTSB will investigate. The NTSB will take the lead in the investigation and provide all updates. And we also just got this. Governor Josh Shapiro put out a statement saying Commonwealth resources. He's offering all Commonwealth resources as they respond to the plane crash in Northeast Philly. Again, this crash site is about 3 miles from the airport where the plane took off in Northeast Philly, and that primarily serves business jets and charter flights. The FAA now saying that it was a Learjet 55. It's our understanding it was a Learjet, a med jet, which is transportation, medical transportation from location to location with patients, and that it was taken off from Northeast Airport and it was headed to Missouri. I just got this also from the Office of Emergency Management. They have been updating us, and the top thing for anyone who is in that area that the Office of Emergency Management is saying, first, stay away from the area. It is a mess. Traffic is jammed. There's heavy smoke in the area. Get inside and close your windows. They're also saying that a media staging area is at Cottman and the Boulevard, and they are working to respond to all of the calls that they're getting. A major incident, they're saying, at Cottman and Bustleton, which we know, across from Roosevelt Mall, and they are closing the roads in the area. They are trying to evacuate people and getting people as far away from that area as possible. Jacqueline and Fred?
Tracy, thank you for that, and that corresponds pretty much with what Deanna Durante was saying as far as law enforcement trying to get people out. They had to evacuate people from that shopping area, and right now there's an effort to try to get people evacuated and into their homes who live in that area because of the smoke, and also just the response trying to get in and respond to this crash.
Right now, let's go to Lauren Maig near that scene as well. Lauren, what can you tell us?
Fred, or Jacqueline and Fred, I just heard Tracy talking about a report about traffic being a mess. I can tell you that is the case. We are at that staging area that you were just talking about.
I need to hear.
That we are just that we were just talking about, and it was very difficult getting here, trying to get around in both the traffic and also pedestrians. A lot of people walking around the area. At one point, we turned onto a street, and there was just a stream of people coming toward us, along with officers who were trying to block off that street. Behind them, we could see smoke coming from a building, and we were told there was an active fire going on. So we're still trying to figure out exactly where the different sites are, where this plane was, where perhaps parts of this plane are, and anything else that's impacted by it. But we did turn onto a small street where we could see smoke coming from what appeared to be a residential building. I know that you've been talking about the Roosevelt Mall and some of the commercial buildings, but we were in a residential section where we were seeing that smoke coming from. You can probably see some smoke behind me, and I'm just going to step out of the way to see what we can see right now. We have seen smoke in the air throughout the area, and officers really just trying to move people out of certain areas and keep them away from areas where they need to be working. We've seen multiple emergency vehicles. I can see a fire department vehicle in front of me right now. I can see 2 fire department vehicles in front of me right now. Many police vehicles, as you might imagine. Police on foot also in the neighborhoods surrounding where I am now, trying to move people out from where they need to be. That small street that we were on, as we were backing out to get out of that street, and people, dozens of people who were on foot coming toward us, we could see the police then blocking that street off with red tape as we backed out to make sure that no one else was coming in that area. We are at this staging area right now waiting for police to give us some more detailed information. I know Deanna Durante has been getting information from her sources about what is believed to have happened and what they are dealing with on the ground here. We are here waiting to get more information from police about their operation, what they've seen, and what they're able to tell us about this. That's what we are seeing right now. We are still seeing people on foot trying to kind of get a handle on this situation. Again, just as I came on, I heard Tracy talking about it being a mess getting around in this area. That is true. I would not recommend coming anywhere near this area. Police are trying to get a handle on things. They need this area and don't want additional people in here to try to, make more congestion in this area.
And if you had a hard time getting to that area as the media, you just wonder how hard it is for medical personnel to get to that area. And of course, we don't know how many people need to be treated. We know 2 people were on board that plane. But Lauren, as you were describing, this is a heavily congested area, heavily trafficked. And there are numerous businesses. There are numerous homes. The plane went down. It looked like it was just behind a complex. So a lot of people curious, wanting to know if their family, friends are okay, their coworkers, but at the same time, they're advising people to stay out of the way for 2 reasons, because there was so much congestion. We can hear the fire trucks arriving, and they need to get to that scene, but also because they're warning people about the fumes and the smoke and telling people to keep their windows raised and their windows closed because of that danger as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting, Jacqueline, as you say that, sometimes we come to a scene and you can smell the smoke right away. That's not the case here. I'm not smelling a lot of smoke. It's possible that it's because it's raining right now, and that might be washing some of that away, but it is not a scene where you are getting an overwhelming whiff of smoke from the fires that we know have been burning here. But what you mentioned about this area is certainly true. This is an area where you have commercial businesses and also residential right butted up against each other, and with a very, very, very busy highway between them. So that makes this area extremely challenging for law enforcement, for first responders to try to get a handle on things. It's also a Friday night. You would expect that people might be out. They might be stopping at the McDonald's. They might be, picking out something to eat. Again, you can hear the sirens still going through, and I'm taking a look behind our camera to see what that is going through. It looks like it is an ambulance, some sort of medical, it's a fire department medical vehicle that's going through there. And this part of the street that actually where it's turning onto, they do have parts of the road actually blocked off where there are no cars moving on it. You can see there that medical vehicle is able to sort of get down that street without having to interact with any other cars. This stretch of things is shut down. It was difficult for us to even get here. We thought we might have to walk. We thought we might have to park a little ways away and walk in, and we were able to get in a little closer. Actually, let me spin you around. Bruce, if you could spin around there, and I'll just give you a sense of where we are here. This is Roosevelt Mall here. You can see the Macy's over there, and you can see that they have things.
We've been listening to the ongoing breaking news coverage from our affiliate there in Philadelphia, covering this plane crash in the northern part of the city. I do want to play for you some ring cam video that has come in. I'm not going to talk over it because I want you to listen to it. We do want to give you a warning here. It is incredibly graphic, but we do want to show you what's happened in Philadelphia. I'm going to ask our director, Brett, I don't know if you can roll that first one as well, if we have sound on that one. It's okay. I guess we apparently don't have the sound on that one. Joining us here is Todd Yeary, who's a former air traffic controller out of Chicago. Todd, we've been watching this together. And when you see that video, it is horrific. We know very little, but there's some that you know and you can speak to from your expertise. Talk to us about what you've seen and what seems strange.
Well, there was a takeoff clearance, so air traffic control cleared the aircraft. There's the proximity to the airport, about 4 miles. Something happened either right as the aircraft is lifting up. You can look at the incline or the decline, the descent being rather steep. Something happened rather catastrophically after the aircraft lifted off, and we don't know what it is.
What do we know about this jet? It's a Learjet, correct? We know that it was a medvac plane, if you will. It carries passengers. It had flown from Miami to northeast Philadelphia. Then it was heading to Missouri, from what we know. But this type of jet, I mean, it's a high-performance piece of aviation.
It is a high-performance jet. It is very reliable. It is very unusual to see what we've just witnessed. And so something that we can't identify yet must have influenced.
When a plane is flying like that and then it seems to just nosedive down, what usually is the cause of that?
It could be a number of things. What we do know is there's a loss of flight control. And so we know that's the case. We don't know if there's something inside on the flight deck or something outside the airplane that actually caused this.
But we were listening a little bit to the forecast and the weather conditions at takeoff. When you were listening to that, was there anything out of the ordinary? It was raining a little bit. You can kind of see that the video, in some of this video, that the weather wasn't great.
Nothing that I heard from the weather report for an instrument flight rules takeoff. It seemed like that would be what we might come across on any day.
A little bit of rain, you can still take off.
A little bit of rain, you've got good visibility. Obviously, there's nothing to impede the airplane lifting off that we've heard, nothing around ice or low temperatures. So I don't think it's so much the weather. I think there's something else that intervened.
It was about 4 miles from the airport, from what our local affiliate has reported so far. Does that tell us anything if it were to have some type of catastrophic mechanical failure?
Doesn't tell us much. It tells us it happened relatively quickly after takeoff. That much we do know. We don't know how high in altitude the aircraft had reached before the descent occurred, but what we do know is that shortly after takeoff, air traffic controllers lost contact with the aircraft.
When it happens earlier than maybe towards the middle or the end of the flight, does it make it any more difficult for the pilot to somehow try to save the flight, save the aircraft in any way, or there are just moments when you just can't?
It depends on the issue, and that's why it's always hard to kind of try to figure these things out until you get to the core questions. It's hard to know.
On jets like that, before takeoff, are they routinely inspected? Are they inspected at different points, throughout their flight hours? How does that work?
That's an airworthiness question. I think that would have to come down to someone from the agency who's dealing with certification.
Okay, Todd, we appreciate that. We're gonna listen back to our affiliate in Philadelphia on their ongoing coverage.
A lot of concern and worry from folks that we talk to, not just about can they get back to their homes and their vehicles, but also about those who are possibly, injured and those that could be dealing. So we're coming over here to the media, and they're being very diligent about pushing people away and out of the scene. Here's another vantage point we'll give you over here. We're now at the Philly gas. This gas station is going to be, I can see it. We're live. Can we ask you a question by any chance?
I don't have any comments right now.
No comments?
No, not right now.
Okay, sounds good.
We're going to get back to you.
Okay.
But we're going to move. Somebody drop your phone. Oh, my God. It's
okay. Sorry, there's a phone right there. Yep. There's nothing you can say. We're live, so I'm not trying to put you on the spot. Appreciate you. Got you. Here. Okay, appreciate you. Thank you. Appreciate that. So we're still waiting for that update. Tried to get us some information, but they didn't want to go on the record with anything. But here's the other view right now. We're at Cotman and Bustleton down at the other end, and I can tell you in the video that we have, and presumably some of the video that you've been showing, that is the area that was engulfed in flames. That was the area that had damage to the building. That was the area where some of those cars were damaged as well. So there's a lot going on right now. We're being pushed back once again out of the road. So we'll send it back to you. Hopefully we'll be able to get some information to you guys soon on the record. It looks like they're starting to plan stuff right now. But let's send it back to you guys in the studio.
Aaron Baskerville live on the ground. We're hearing that we can see right there that Aaron Baskerville and our crews are being asked to move. Deanna Durante, who's also there on the ground, says that she's hearing authorities telling people to leave on foot, even if they don't have transportation, to get out of that area. Just the imperativeness of getting close to this plane crash and possibly residences that were damaged as well.
Traffic just that bad, they're telling people to walk instead of drive.
I believe we have Siobhan McGurl joining us now. Siobhan, what can you tell us, and where are you exactly?
Yeah, hey guys, we're right in that same spot Aaron just was, right here at Roosevelt and Cotman. They just told us to take a step back, but before they did, I was able to talk to that firefighter right there on scene. I said, hey, what are you seeing? Can you tell us? He says, we are far from that. Still very active, as you can see. They still have a lot of work to do here. I asked about evacuations. I was over on Rupert Street, and the police were starting to evacuate people there. Fire officials said, oh, yes, evacuations are underway. You can see that smoke coming from the scene. Dozens of law enforcement and first responders here. They are telling us to push back right now. So Miguel can come this way. We'll be on the move. All right. Thank you, sir. You got it. Thank you. As you guys can see, a very fluid situation right now. Still a lot of work happening. As our crews have been showing you, law enforcement, fire, all over. Driving here, even when I was driving in, you could see them making their way from different parts of the city to this scene. A massive response. The city calling this a major incident as they continue to respond and really get a handle on what's going on here. Get the full scope. So you can see right now, we're sitting in the middle of Cotman. Smoke still billowing as we continue to make our way, being pushed back. When I was coming in, I actually was able to come in from the neighborhood. If you know this area, you know there are a lot of businesses here, but there's also neighborhoods. A lot of people who live just beyond here on the other side of the avenue. people were being told again to leave their homes, but before that, it was this very tense and stressful moment. People were coming out their front doors and police were saying, stay in. Now we know that some evacuations are underway over there. They were pushing people back in that area as I was arriving on scene too. So again, very fluid. This is still an active response, and we know this area will be blocked off for quite some time as the response continues. So many officers here. Obviously, to state the obvious, you want to stay away from this area. I know my colleagues have been telling you that there are road closures all over the place over here, and just a lot of people who it was very tense, you know, as they were looking. A lot of people had their phones out in disbelief, seeing all the smoke billow from this area. We're getting asked to be pushed back a little bit further, so we're going to keep on moving. But yeah, that's what we're seeing. As you can see, just very, very fluid. They're pushing us back, they say, to an office max. I can tell you, I did see Philadelphia's police commissioner on scene. So many first responders, and I know there's so many people weighing in too. We've seen all sorts of statements from different people across the city, council members, and things like that. Guys, it's pretty fluid now. I think we're going to have to cross the street over here and move back just a little bit further. So I'm going to send it back to you guys.
Siobhan, I don't know if you can hear me still, and you likely just arrived at the scene. Have you had an opportunity? We got out of her. I was trying to engage with her, but this again is some radio transmission.
Lost aircraft. We're not exactly sure what happened, so we're trying to figure it out. For now, the field is going to be closed, so no inbounds or outbounds probably.
You can see there we have a lost aircraft. We're not exactly sure what happened, so we are trying to figure it out. For now, the field is going. So that's that initial radio transmission when they were trying to figure out what happened, but they knew that there was a lost aircraft. They saw it, they had it, and then it was gone.
And you can tell, just as we anticipated when we first came on, we could tell by what we were hearing from early reports of law enforcement pushing people out and telling people to close their windows and evacuate, that at some point they would broaden this investigative scene. What's happening is the debris field has widened, and they are pushing people out as they begin to investigate and they begin their recovery effort in this crash. Reporters are being pushed out of that area. Folks who live in the area are being evacuated, told to walk, not drive, because of the level of traffic in that area. As we heard our Aaron Baskerville report, dozens of first responders at every corner. And as we are in the preliminary part of this investigation, we know that from information given to us from our meteorologist, Brittany Shipp, that visibility around the time of this crash was 6 miles. Wind was between 5 and 12 miles per hour, and there was a low ceiling, so that would make for a challenging condition for jet travel tonight.
And we heard from Tracy Davidson that Governor Josh Shapiro put out a statement saying all Commonwealth resources are being used as they respond to Northeast Philadelphia. We also just received information and a statement from Philadelphia City Council, Councilmember Driscoll, Mike Driscoll, saying, my heart is heavy as we continue to learn more about this tragic plane crash in Northeast Philadelphia. We're in direct communication with our emergency response team to monitor the ongoing impacts to the immediate and surrounding area. This is an active emergency response situation, sadly, with reported mass casualties. That is the first time we heard about that. We knew there were 2 people on board that plane, that medical jet, but according to this statement from Philadelphia City Council, he is saying that, sadly, there were mass casualties. Right now, our focus is on the needs of our first responders on the ground, as well as the individuals and families impacted by this tragedy. We ask that people please avoid the area. We will continue to monitor as this unfolds. Our prayers are with everyone right now. Again, him echoing what we have heard so much from our reporters on the ground, people being asked to avoid the area. But it raises question about how many people could potentially, unfortunately, be impacted by this, far beyond the people who were on that plane, on that medical jet.
We do know that there have been several vehicles that have caught fire, according to witnesses on the ground. We know 3 homes caught fire at St. Vincent's and Calvert. And we know that there have been numerous other businesses impacted by the crash here. This is video again that we showed you earlier that just shows you this is part of the investigative scene right here. This is the debris field. These are things that happened as a result of this plane crash that you're seeing right now. Things still on fire. And we know that things are still burning even at this hour from the plumes of smoke that we see behind our reporters who are giving us a first feet on the ground appearance of what's going on.
Again, to summarize what we know, a Learjet 55 crashed around 6 o'clock this evening, 6:30 p.m. local time, we are being told. After departing from Northeast Philadelphia Airport, there were 2 people on board the plane en route to Springfield Branson National Airport in Missouri. The FAA, the NTSB investigating. We're being told that the NTSB is already gathering information. We also know that 3 homes caught fire. The location of those homes are at St. Vincent and Calvert. And we have heard from people on the ground that not only did they feel the ground shaking and saw an explosion, but we also know that there's just a lot of heightened anxiety because of what happened yesterday, because of that plane crash as well. People being asked to stay out of the area because of the fumes, because of the smoke, and to not get in the way of medical personnel who are trying to get to that scene.
I want to show you a piece of Nest video that's into our newsroom now to give you another view of exactly what's going on, of what we've seen this evening. Here it is right here. Exactly what happened. You know, that video also has a timestamp on it as well. And if you notice, it's pretty similar to the timestamp that we saw on the other piece of video that we showed you. But yeah, as Jacqueline was just saying, we had reports of people who felt the ground shake. They saw vehicles on fire, and just a very unnerving predicament to find yourself in on a Friday evening. In this scene right here, dozens of first responders on the scene. The emergency management office telling people to stay away. Heavy smoke is a big concern right now. Stay inside. They are staging a media area at Cotman and Bustleton. But as they do that, they're trying to evacuate people. We heard, I think it was Aaron Baskerville or either Siobhan McGurl say that the police commissioner was on the scene there. So presumably we expect to hear from him and get an update from him. We heard our Deanna Durante say that they were trying to get as many police officers who were available to be a part of the scene to control traffic in this very busy part of Northeast Philadelphia. We have our Shaira Arias, who is live on the scene, who earlier showed us a piece of debris that was on the ground and talked to a man who was inside of a cafe when this airplane crash happened. Shaira, what are you seeing now?
Fred, what we're seeing right now is that Roosevelt Boulevard is just completely empty. As you can see, there's no vehicles that are going up north or south the boulevard because all this area is completely blocked off. I must tell you that as we were on our way here, we could hear, obviously, earlier that we're talking about just a massive amount of sounds of the ambulance, the officers that were trying to get here and respond. You could feel that literally all of the officials are staging in this intersection right here in Roosevelt and Cotman. And I just want to make it very clear for everybody to understand that this entire section, it obviously doesn't just have businesses. As you can see, there's a gas station, right? There's a gas station right at that intersection. And then you can see that there's other businesses. But if we move a little bit towards the back, where that smoke is coming from, that entire area is filled with homes. And I don't want to give an exact description of what I saw from a video moments ago, but I did see a lot of fire that was in that area where the accident happened, and people running away from the fire as well. A lot of people at that time were trying to get to their houses coming out from work, right? Because, again, this is residential and also
Okay, I think we lost Shaira.
Now there's a close shot where you can see all of the smoke and the flames.
Yeah, and you could just see firefighters look like they were putting water on that fire, if I'm not mistaken, from the first shot we saw.
We had been reporting that 2 people were on board the plane. We were unsure if there was also a patient who was being transported because it was a medical plane. Right now on our screen, we are seeing at least 6 people were on board that plane that crashed. We were initially saying there were 2 people, but now apparently there were 6 people who were on board.
We have been listening to NBC Philadelphia as they covered that plane crash into a northern Philadelphia neighborhood moments ago. The Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, tweeting that a Learjet crashed after departing from Northeast Philadelphia Airport. He's saying there were reportedly 6 people on board, but we have not confirmed the casualties or injuries on the plane or on the ground. We thank you for watching Top Story tonight. I'm Tom Llamas reporting from Washington. Our coverage of this new plane crash continues right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.